Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this edition of the Wyoming Women's Business Center's 2019 webinar series. Today, our presentation is Driving Traffic and Sales to Your Brick-and-Mortar Location. My name is Waldo Smith. I will be your moderator. You'll notice the go-to webinar panel on the right side of your screen. I want to draw your attention to that as there's a question area and a chat panel in that menu. Please, or comments during the presentation in these areas. Everyone is muted at this point. Eliminate background noise, but I will be monitoring the question in the chat area boxes and pass those on to your presenter. This webinar is being recorded and again will be available on our YouTube channel probably next week, as we'll have to get it uploaded. But after Monday, you can go to youtube.com, type in Wyoming Women's Business Center, and make sure you subscribe so that you can check out our other webinars. You can also visit our website at www.wyomingwomen.org and look for us on Facebook to keep up to date with all of what's going on. Immediately following our presentation, a survey will launch, and we ask that you please complete this survey as it provides us with information that we pass on to our funding partners. This is valuable information and helps us to retain our funding. Plus, the comments also gives us ideas for future webinar topics. As I stated before, all participants are muted, so please send those questions or comments to the chat or question boxes. And our presenter today is Christine Langley, our business counselor at the Wyoming Women's Business Center. She is a sales and marketing expert with 15 plus years of achievement and demonstrated success, driving sales growth in highly competitive markets. And in addition to her corporate experience in general management, sales management, and human resources, she is a small business entrepreneur herself and understands the joys and challenges associated with business ownership. So with that, I will turn it over to Christine.
All right, thanks, Waldo. So today's agenda on driving traffic and sales to your brick and mortar location, I'm just going to start out really quickly and give you an introduction to the Wyoming Women's Business Center if this is the first time you've ever been on one of our webinars. So our mission at the WWBC is to promote economic equality in Wyoming through successful business ownership. And we do this in a variety of ways. We are a nonprofit organization that assists individuals who want to either start or expand their small business. And the primary requirement is that you're in the state of Wyoming. And so we do this through business planning and counseling, networking and educational opportunities like this webinar today. And then we also have a microloan program, which can give you access to capital. So when we talk about business counseling, it's really about motivating, coaching, inspiring, teaching, and just mentoring you to success. Entrepreneurship can be incredibly isolating, as I'm sure many of you have experienced. And so we try to be that cheerleader in the background that keeps you going and answers some of the tough questions. So networking and educational opportunities are online as well as around the state in the form of monthly roundtables because we do service the entire state of Wyoming. And Waldo mentioned our YouTube channel, which I encourage you to check out because past webinars are all listed on there with some hard-hitting topics as well. So our access to capital program, the microloan program, we do microloans anywhere from $500 to $50,000 to help fund business startups or expansions. There's a few requirements for that, and if you want more information, you can contact Waldo Smith about that, and I'll have his contact information at the end of this slideshow. So digging into our agenda today on driving traffic and sales to your brick and mortar location, we're going to start out talking about budget and brand identity. We'll go into signage and then taking a look inside your store. We're going to cover online drivers and things that you can do to drive business from online to in-store. And then we'll end with how to compete with Amazon, or ideas and strategies on how to compete with Amazon, and then forming some strategic partnerships. I always leave a little bit of time at the end for Q&A, so encourage you to jot down some questions as we go through, and happy to answer those. All right, so why budget, right? Why budget at all in a business? There's a couple of key reasons, but inevitably, whenever I start coaching my clients on marketing ideas, they always come back with a response that sounds something like this. Well, that all sounds great, Christine, but I don't have the money required to implement those ideas. So before I dive into all the content in today's webinar, I just want to start by saying that most marketing activity that you engage in is going to cost money. And that's why it's important that you operate your business on a budget, using a forecast budget. This is also known as a cash flow budget. That means that you have a financial plan that predicts your income and your expenses. And this is never going to be an exact science, right? You know, God laughs at us when we say we made a plan. But your prediction, while it won't be perfect, it's still a plan that you can follow as a guideline, and you can use to set your marketing budget for each month or each year. And so forecasting your income and expenditures can then forecast your profitability. This lets you know how much potential money you have to reinvest in your company. It's a tool for decision making. It's the mean to monitor your business performance so you know how you're doing. So when we talk specifically about your marketing budget, the next question is usually, okay, I know I'm gonna have to spend some money, so how much do I have to spend? So again, the answer is dependent on your business. It's going to be dependent on industry standards in your business, meaning what are your competitors doing and what do you have to do to compete? And then also the length of time you've been in business, right? So if you're an established business, you've been in business for over 7 years, you may not have to do as much marketing and advertising work because your brand is established and people know your business. But if you're brand new, you may have to do more. So just a simple guideline here, the U.S. Small Business Administration recommends spending somewhere between 7 and 8% of your gross revenue for marketing and advertising if you're doing less than $5 million a year in sales and your net profit after expenses, you know, is in that 10 to 12% range. Now we know that most Wyoming businesses are doing less than $5 million a year. So that 7 to 8% is a decent number. Other things to take into consideration is your marketing foundation. So meaning your brand identity, your website design and development, things of this nature. If you don't have these things in place already, then you can expect your required spending to be higher as you implement these foundational pieces. So once you have those foundational pieces in place, then it'll be easier to lower your budget. But in the beginning, it may be higher, because without those foundational pieces, your day-to-day marketing activities are not going to be very effective. So let's get a sense from our group here that is online. I'm going to launch a poll really quick and ask you, what is your established marketing budget right now? Okay, and there's no judgments here, and this is totally, you know, anonymous as far as your answers, so you can answer honestly. I just want you to select one of the following. You know, you don't have one, or it's less than 2% of your gross revenue because you're spending as little as possible. It's 2 to 5% of gross revenue, which I personally consider the minimum that anyone should spend that's in business. 6 to 8% of gross revenue, that would be closer to the recommendation from the Small Business Administration. Or are you in the 9% or more category? Okay, I've got about 75% of the vote in. Just going to wait a couple more seconds to get a few more responses. Very good. Let's see how we fared out here. Okay, so 11% don't have one. 56% of you are spending less than 2% because you're spending as little as possible. So that may be something we want to think about and look at. 2 to 5% of gross revenue is 22%. I've got another 11% doing 6 to 8%. Nobody's over 9. Okay, so we're all under 9%. And our most popular category is the less than 2% gross revenue. I spend as little as possible. And again, this may be because you're scraping the bottom as far as your profitability is concerned to begin with. And you may have to look at some other things in your business, to cut or do differently in order to be able to spend more money on marketing. If you need some one-on-one help in establishing what that could be, then we can certainly talk about that. All right, how to create a brand identity. So brand identity becomes very important when we're looking at marketing. And step one is to conduct a brand audit, which is establishing where you stand in the marketplace and to understand who your customer truly is. So to do this, you'll need to uncover what is most important for driving growth, and then analyze how your products or services are actually viewed by your consumers. So another way to do this is through an in-depth competitor analysis. This could include reviewing competitor websites, brand identities and advertising. This can inform, who you're going to compete with for market share, and then how to differentiate yourself and what strategies to employ. So this is just a general audit of your brand. The next step in creating your brand identity is to establish your unique value proposition along with messaging statements. So in order for a branding effort to be successful, your company has to first identify its core philosophies, such as its mission statement and values. It's important to determine what your brand's value proposition is or what your competitive advantages are for your consumer. This is really the foundation of building a brand that truly represents your business and your organization. So those first two steps are critical so that when we get to the fun step of number 3, which is developing your brand's creative elements, you have a roadmap for why you're creating what you're creating. Often with a lot of my clients, they just jumped right in and tried to develop a logo without really identifying what their brand was going to be in the beginning. And it's because the logo part and the signage part, that's fun, right? I used to say, well, you're not really in business unless you have t-shirts and hats, because that's like the first thing everybody wants to do. And it's okay to get excited about step number 3, but recognize that it's step number 3 and that we have to do step 1 and 2 first. So you're going to need to create a look, feel, and voice of your brand that's going to be carried through all your marketing channels, from the website to social media to advertisements, even your packaging. And your brand's visual vocabulary, which is what we call it, is going to be reflected in your colors and your fonts, your logo, and your overall style. And so your brand's voice should be distinctive. It should also resonate with your customers, and then be consistent and stay true to your company's values. All right, the 4th step is to implement strategies to actually establish that brand identity, right? So your brand doesn't mean anything if no one knows what it is and has never seen it before. So ultimately this happens over time, but it's important that you implement several strategies to help grow that brand awareness and strengthen the brand. So things like building a robust social media presence, developing content marketing that tells the story of your company, being sure that your website and your online reputation match the brand's goals, and then ensuring that your website's mobile and search friendly and contains multiple contact points to connect with customers. It's easy to navigate. All of those things help to establish and implement that brand. And then lastly, step 5 is to analyze and refine that brand identity. So while it's crucial for a brand to establish like an intrinsic value to the consumer, it doesn't mean it shouldn't change over time. So I've also had clients that have had the same look and feel in their business for over a decade, and that can be a deterrent for new customers as well. So to remain competitive, companies have to routinely analyze and refine their brand to ensure it's delivering on the promises of what their company stands for. And doing a brand update or a refresh can be a good thing. So let's just talk specifically about your logo right now. There's lots of different elements, when we talk about the creative, to your brand, but I just want to launch another quick poll, and I want to know which statement best describes the logo for your business. Okay, it's awesome and well positioned across all media. It works for now, but could use an update. I have several versions, and it can be confusing to customers. So this is something I see a lot, right? You came up with a logo at the beginning of your business, and then you went to a sign company and they modified it a little bit so it would look better on the t-shirt, but your business cards have the old one, and your hat has something else. And then the logo that got painted on the side of your trailer, or the stickers that you got for the side of your trailer in a different font than everything else, right? So you have a little bit of a mix match going on as far as your brand is concerned. Next, I hate it and I need to start over. That's okay if that's you. Or I don't have one, right? I opened my store and I put the name up in Times Roman, font in paint on the window, and that's all I did. So where are you at? Okay, going to give you a couple more seconds to finish voting. All right, good job. Let's share our results here. Okay, so it's awesome and well positioned across all media. We've got 25%. That's great. A quarter of our call. It works for now, but could use an update. Okay, almost 40%. I've got several versions, 13%. I hate it, need to start over, 13%. I don't have one. So if you're in those bottom three categories, we definitely need to do some work. If you're in category 1, congratulations. If you're number 2, it works for now, but can use an update, then that's something that you might want to build into that marketing budget that we talked about. All right, checking your brand, website, communication pieces, and reporting systems. So these are really just questions that I want you to ask yourself, and just answer yes or no to these questions. So do you have a clear, up-to-date brand that properly identifies your company and consistently generates that same brand image for consumers? So like we talked about just now, if you have various logos because you did an update at some point and then decided not to get new shirts or business cards or update your outdoor signage, then you're hurting your brand identity, because consistency is the key. Number 2, does your brand have a consistent look and feel across all media? If you have one type of image on your Facebook business page and a totally different type of image on the banner of your website or inside your store, then it's not consistent and people won't recognize your brand across all the different media platforms. Number 3, how does your website compare to the competition? So have you done a Google search? Say you're a catering business in Cheyenne. Have you Googled your business category, catering Cheyenne, and then compared yourself to your competition? If you haven't done this recently, I want you to remember that Google knows the IP address on your computer and your different devices, and they know what you're searching for based on clicks that you've done in the past. So the best way to do this objectively is to ask someone that's never Googled this topic to do it from their device and evaluate the results. So sometimes, in the past, I've asked my customers to do this before, just so I can see where I'm coming up in their searches. Number 4, are there any barriers in your prospect's path toward becoming a customer? So this can be anything from a merchandising issue where people just can't find the products that they're looking for, to customer service problems that you have with maybe sales associates in your store, to not offering online sales, or your online sales being clunky. So I want you to try to think like a new customer and evaluate their experience, or you can even find a secret shopper that can experience your store and then complete a survey or an evaluation form. And I recommend this secret shopper thing at least once a quarter. It can be so valuable. And if you need help coming up with an evaluation form or survey questions, all you have to do is Google secret shopper questions or secret shopper evaluations. There's a ton of free sources online. Number 5, do you have the tools and systems in place to measure the success of your marketing investment? So it's important you're able to evaluate what worked and what didn't from quarter to quarter or year to year. And these tools can get really sophisticated, but at the absolute least, you should be surveying your customers verbally and documenting their response, because your hunch of what's working isn't always accurate, right? Sometimes people like to do this with coupons, right? They collect the actual coupons, or they collect the, Valpak discount slips, as they come in. That's one marketing strategy or way to track. But if you have several different marketing plans going at one time, you're using lots of different sources, then you need to make sure you have a solid measurement tool so that you can actually know what's working, what isn't, at what level. And then last but not least, do you have a solid and solidified strategy for business development and marketing related to it? So what this question is really asking is, do you have a plan? So many times when I coach clients, they tell me about a marketing opportunity that they were contacted about, right? So the guy that sells newspaper ads or the lady that's with the such and such radio station came into them and pitched them on an advertising platform or idea. And they went ahead and went for it because it seemed like it would work. And then for one reason or another, it didn't work the way that they expected, and they're disappointed and they feel burned by the experience. And my recommendation is that you shouldn't be responding to a marketing offer at all. You should be planning your marketing strategy in advance, and it should complement all areas of your business. And then you should implement your plan by you contacting the resources required. So if you're interested in radio, if you want to do online advertising platforms, or if you're going to buy new signage, for your store, you should be calling the sign shop. They shouldn't be calling you. Right? You should be contacting, Google or Facebook in order to do advertising. You should be calling the radio station to get rates because it's part of your strategy and plan that you've developed, and it's encompassed within your budget. So let's take another poll here, and we're just going to take one of these things that we talked about. And I just want to know, when is the last time you Googled your business category? Either you do it or you did it from a different IP address. And the reason that I say Google and not online search is because 87% of all searches in the world happen on Google. So truthfully, if you're not coming up on Google, you don't exist, right? So when's the last time you did that? Within the last week, within the last month, within the last 3 months, within the last 6 months, within the last year? We've got about half of you responding on the vote, so I'm going to give you a few more minutes. Not minutes, more like seconds. Okay. All right, let's take a look. So 17% within the last week, great. Within the last month, 33%, and then everybody else is 17%. So again, my recommendation is to do this at minimum quarterly. I like to look at it every month. I want to know if somebody is new and just came into town and is doing something. I want to be looking at it regularly. So if you have your own marketing person, on staff, or you have a marketing communications company that you're using, then it's something they should be looking at all the time. They should be looking at it weekly. But as a business owner, at minimum, you want to look at it quarterly, and I'd recommend monthly. All right, let's get into store signage. So assuming you have the branding elements in place, now we're going to talk about signage and also in-store ideas to promote your business. So step number one is typically creating some kind of memorable monument sign. And memorable monument signs can become a staple in your community, especially in rural communities. And it can also be a photo opportunity in the right location. So I'm sure you guys can all think of signage in a downtown area that has become a photo opportunity, or they've created some type of signage that ends up being a photo opportunity, and allows customers to take a picture and then, position where they're at on their social media. So also consider digital signage. That's another option because it can change on a dime and constantly be updated with information. Another thing to look at on signage is making a great display for the window. So a well-designed window display, or even window art, right? Paint on the window. It encourages impulse sales, or at least impulse shopping, where people are going to walk in, and it piques the customer's curiosity. So it might even tug at their heartstrings. So this may sound like a familiar window setting and slogan to you. There was once a store, it was a jewelry store, and in a window display, it actually featured a miniature park scene. And seated on one end of the oak bench, a young woman held out her left hand as her fiance was on bended knee, and he placed this sparkling platinum diamond ring on her finger. And at the other end of the bench, there was an elderly woman, and she was by herself, and she was admiring her own wedding band. And there was a simple sign overhead that said, "A diamond is forever," right? So we can We all know who that jewelry store is, and that's because that campaign and that slogan spread across all areas of media for them. It started in a store display window, and then it became a national media campaign. Another thing is to roll out the red welcome mat. So nothing screams special treatment like a simple red mat with the words welcome. I've also seen a florist use rose petals scattered across the sidewalk like a carpet to draw attention. I also often suggest chalk art or chalk arrows and cute sayings that lead people to your door. So again, things that draw attention to passerbyers, assuming you're in a walkable area. And then lastly, put your best out front, and then also decorating your outside walls. So if you have a large enough product, then you can actually wheel that product right out in front of your store. Say you're selling ATVs or motorcycles, right? You have a big product, then you can draw a lot of attention just by wheeling a large product even to the sidewalk. And I always remind retailers that, you know, having a rack or a table of old merchandise that hasn't sold out on the sidewalk with a sales sign is not a good representation of your store brand, right? If it didn't sell inside your store and your last ditch effort is to put it out on the sidewalk with a sales sign, this is not the image that you want to present to new business that might be walking by your store. So put your best stuff up front and figure out another way to move that inventory. Decorating your outside walls, you know, some people have this option if you own your building or if you have a landlord that is excited about helping you build your brand. You can make your building immediately recognizable for what you sell or what you have in it. And so if you can't do that for some reason, you might be able to put a really tall banner, you know, like from the roof to the sidewalk in really eye-catching colors. I always tell people to think more like forest green or navy blue instead of fluorescent pink. But at the top, you put something like "We've got," and then add pictures of what your best products are. So the goal isn't to scream price on these types of signage, but it's to showcase quality and showcase consumer wants. So if you can't put it on the side of your building, then your next option is to get a freestanding banner, and you can also get holders that can be placed by your door for those freestanding banners. So placed outside, these are used where you can't use a building banner, you know, but essentially with the same message. And so a banner and a weighted banner holder, it can be as little as a couple $100s. And this could be something you could change out monthly to kind of refresh your image or refresh the inventory that you're trying to promote. Okay, other ideas for outside signage. There's light pole signs that can be printed in full color. Again, the goal of these signs is not necessarily to sell or list anything's price, but it's actually to showcase your best products. So think of something short like "Learn to Sew" or "The Perfect Birthday" or "You Can Cook," and then you have your logo in the bottom corner. Another idea is to fly some flags. So a string of pennant flags from a light pole to the front of your business. You can get multicolored versions of flags at sporting goods stores, sometimes for under 50 bucks. The trick with flags is to replace them about every other month, or, you know, if you're in the Wyoming wind, it may be every month, while they're still bright and before they're ripped. So consider flying them even on a specific schedule so they go up and down based on events or promotions that you're doing. Another idea is wicket signs. So these are more like short-term, you know, type promotions that you'd put up and take down each day. These are lightweight signs. They're often used by realtors for open houses, and really it's because they're so reasonably priced. So they're usually less than 30 bucks. You push them into the ground. They stand like 3 feet high by 2 feet wide. And again, they're for limited time promotions, but they can be a good choice. Another option is portable signage that has some kind of a challenge to customers. So portable signage like an A-frame sign, right? That you write something such as, you know, "Finish our 9-piece puzzle in less than 5 minutes and get a free puzzle," right? So some kind of hook in order to get people to come into the store. So other people use them for short bulleted list of benefits, or a snappy saying, drawing attention to a hard to find item, right? You just got something in inventory that you know is hot and people might be looking for, and you can say, "Hey, we have X here now." Planted up, I'm referring to landscaping. So landscaping can be a really big attraction, and it can be a memorable landmark. There's a restaurant actually in Southern California that I know of that literally spends 100% of their marketing budget on landscaping. And so they have just a unique lot where they were able to build just this gorgeous garden environment in front of their restaurant. I mean, full with water feature and everything. And it's become a destination location for people to come and look at their beautiful landscaping and gardening. It's a photo opportunity, but everyone knows this restaurant because of the garden, because of the landscaping. And so there's people that don't even know the name of the restaurant, but they're like, you know, the flower restaurant, because it's so bright and colorful. So landscaping can be an attraction. If you have nothing but sidewalks, then I always recommend large potted plants full of color in the summer, change them out to junipers with string lights in the winter. And then last but not least, balloons. You know, tried and true, old school, but a helium-filled balloon, or they even have sturdier options now that can capture the wind and provide movement. This can draw attention to your business. You can also do a lot with inside displays of balloons. Those can work great for some locations. All right, so back to polling. Just want to get a sense in regards to your business right now with signage. What signage improvement can you commit to for your location? When you think about your own signage, is there anything you feel like you could commit to for the coming year? Is it a monument sign or a banner? Is it flags or balloons? Is it a red welcome mat? Is it wicket signs or portable signage? Is it some kind of outdoor decoration or landscaping? Which one of these do you feel like that's reasonable? I need to do that. I think I could commit to that. Give you guys a few more seconds to vote. All right, let's see where we ended up. Oh, that's great. We got almost 60% of you saying need to do a banner or update a monument sign. And that can be an investment. So that's awesome if you know that that's an area that you can increase and do a better job in. Almost 30% say, hey, I'll do a red welcome mat. Why not? So awesome. That's terrific. And then about 14% with the wicket signs or portable signs. All right, next up is inside your store. So lots of ideas on driving traffic inside your store. The first one is events or relevant classes. So hosting events is one of the best ways to get people to head to your store. Attendees come for an experience that they can't get online or in other stores. And so events and relevant classes that make sense to your business are always a good thing to look at. Again, consistency is the key, and all of your branding and marketing need to flow with the events and the classes that you're doing. So it's all part of that overall strategy that you're going to plan. Next is to offer any kinds of services that make sense for your products. So some people sell products that require maintenance, whether that's battery replacement, you know, or tuning of, you know, skis or, you know, winter sport, you know, type products. If you sell a product that requires some kind of maintenance, you might want to consider doing that maintenance for free in order to encourage people to stop by. The next thing I always like to mention to my clients about inside your store is your associates looking busy. And so not only do you want to keep your storefront well maintained, and you can use your associates to do this, but a spruced up storefront can do wonders for your curb appeal. So nobody wants to walk into a store with dirty windows or peeling paint. And so you want to stay on top of these maintenance tasks. And there's certain jobs such as sweeping your storefront and cleaning your windows that should be done every single day. And then there's other tasks that only need to be done every few months or years. So a good paint job, for instance, can last years, but I want you to step out in front of your store and look at it from the outside, because sometimes there's issues or kind of decay that's happening with the outside of your store, and you've just sort of gotten used to it. I always say it's like your neighborhood at home, where when you first move into your neighborhood and you have that neighbor that, you know, keeps their trash bins in a certain location and it just kind of bugs you and irritates you. But after a couple months, you just sort of stop seeing it because it's always the same, right? So you don't see it anymore. And sometimes your store can be the same way. So try to look at the outside of your store with fresh eyes to evaluate the physical state of your windows and doors and walls and identify the things that need sprucing up, because you should be assigning people to perform those various maintenance tasks like sweeping and glass cleaning every single day. Maybe your employees can take turns doing different jobs, or you could hire a third party to maintain your storefront, for you. But your associates being busy when people walk into your store is an important feeling or vibe that your customers need to have. There's nothing worse than a customer walking into a store where the associates are behind the counter, standing there either doing nothing or gossiping with each other. Like, the associates need to look busy, and hopefully they're doing productive work for your store. Another idea is to offer some amenities inside your store. Things like USB charging stations, free Wi-Fi, lounge areas, fun zones for kids, some kind of hydration station where people can come and fill up their water bottle with filtered water. Again, wellness classes, clubs, these are kind of going back to like events. And then maybe hosting something for a nonprofit or some kind of a give back program. So it could be an event, but it could also be just a give back program for a nonprofit. Hey, would you like to donate to the Red Cross with your purchase today? So things that can draw attention to nonprofits or feel good opportunities, but also creates an amenity in your store. And then looking behind the product. So this is an idea inside your store in order to get your customers more vested in your business. So allow your customers to see what goes on when you're creating your products. So if you're some kind of an art store, can you have an artist come in, or a gallery? Can you have an artist come in and actually, paint on site? This could be an event as well as showing customers, a creation. Or can you do a tour of your facility? If you're a restaurant, if you're an ice cream shop, if you're a candy store, can you offer free tours certain times, certain dates, in order to give people kind of a behind the scenes look? If you're a florist, can you allow people to watch your florist picking flowers and making the arrangement, kind of open that up so it becomes almost a showcase of behind the scenes or behind the product. All right, next is music or live music. So there may be worse things, but I'm not sure if there's anything worse than walking into a deadly silent store where you're afraid to speak in a normal voice, right? So as long as you aren't a library, then you need to get some tunes going in your space and create some energy that truly identifies with your brand. So if you can play live music and find some live music opportunities, around an event, even better. But you should have even the most basic sound system, right? Even a portable speaker that you set on a counter, something that gives you some kind of musical energy in your space. And then lastly, creative space. So you can create an environment in which your customers can express themselves creatively, like a chalkboard wall in a waiting area, or crayons on a table with butcher block paper. There's a restaurant in Laramie that does this. There's butcher block paper on every single restaurant table, and they put crayons out, whether you're 5 or 50, and everybody can get into it. The waiters, when they come up to your table, they write their name on the butcher block paper and introduce themselves. So that has become kind of part of the brand of that restaurant and has been a big hit. So lots of ways to develop creative space inside your store. And so I encourage you to think of those ideas. All right, moving on to your online business and online drivers. So we want to drive our online business into our store. And so how do we do that? The first and most important thing is to verify your business online. And this is called an online citation or listing. So the most important online citation is the Google My Business listing. And that's literally what it's called, Google My Business, okay? So if you go to Google My Business and you don't have a listing, then you don't exist on Google. And as we talked about before, 87% of all searches are done on Google. So you must have a Google My Business listing. So be sure you have that listing, complete all the sections of that listing, add images and photos that are in alignment with your brand. Be sure the information on your business listing matches across all your platforms. The exact same address, typed the exact same way on all places online, because search engine robots they can't distinguish that the word East, say you're on East Wellington, they can't distinguish East, E-A-S-T, Wellington from E.Wellington. They don't know that that's the same street. So that brings up a red flag in that search engine robots analysis and says these might be two different locations. And that hurts your online citation credibility. So you want to make sure that your address appears the exact same, your phone number appears the exact same across everything online. All right, secondly, make website design and development a priority. So customers are a lot more sophisticated these days, and they are absolutely going to visit your website. Sometimes they visit your website while they're inside your store. Other times they're going to visit before they come. They may visit your website before walking in. They may be standing outside your windows on their phone, and you think, oh, they're doing email or they're on Facebook, and they might be searching for your business to kind of see what it is before they walk in. So be sure you don't lose their interest based on your online presence. Next is to implement an email marketing campaign. You want to gather customers' emails as they're coming through your store and make sure that you keep them updated. So you should have a software program or a system that you use in order to gather all of those emails so that you can push out email marketing. You also want to explore social media opportunities. So you can run contests with a winner pickup at your actual store location. And if you're a little more sophisticated in actually doing Facebook ads already, you can actually have an objective setting called store visits. And that bridges the gap between the online and offline world, and it allows retailers to drive customers back to their brick and mortar locations. So these ads include like coupons that can be redeemed like in-store only, and they're also location enabled. So when people are near your location, it pops up, and it gives them guidance on how to get to your store via maps. You can also build highly targeted SEM ads. That stands for search engine marketing ads. So fortunately, paid search ads put your advertising in front of people who are actively looking for what you have to offer. So we've all experienced this online. You know, we were looking for something the night before, and then, you know, every time we scroll through our Facebook page, it starts popping up with what we searched for the night before. So this is what SEM ads are. By targeting specific keywords, you can deliver ads to searchers who are more likely to have a high purchase intent for what you're selling. You can also layer on additional location-based targeting to make sure you're reaching an audience most likely to travel to or call your brick and mortar location. Another option that can help you drive traffic to your physical location is by utilizing ad extensions for your paid search ads. Location extensions allow you to show your business address and a map marker with your ad text. And so for mobile, you can even include directions to your location. And a lot of people are accessing your business on their mobile device, so that those location and map markers can work well. If the social media opportunities and the SEM ads, you know, are a little above your head right now, that's okay. There's lots of marketing and communication companies out there that can help with this. And if you need referrals for that, just reach out to us. We're happy to give them to you. And then last but not least, you want to offer click and collect. So hopefully you already have a lot of your merchandise on your website and you are offering sales online. That's important, because if you're not, then that creates a barrier to gaining a customer. So great if you're already selling online. If you're not, then at the very least, we strongly urge you to offer click and collect services in your store. So these types of initiatives will not only get people to your physical location, but they can potentially increase sales in the process. And so research has shown that about 1/3 of shoppers would prefer to have an item delivered to a location other than their home. And many of those are choosing to pick up their orders in stores. So what's more, about 50% of respondents have opted for in-store pickup. And of those consumers, 45% of them bought something else during their trip to the store. You know, another customer service idea that kind of is a spin from this offer to click and collect is, for some of your best repeat customers that come to your store regularly, you could offer them Amazon drop-off opportunities. So they could send their Amazon boxes to your store instead of to their house if they're worried about having something delivered to their house, and you could keep those items for them for pickup, which keeps bringing them back into your store, and you have a 45% chance of them purchasing something. All right, so let's launch another poll now that we've talked about online drivers, and I just want to know about your website. So let's just talk about one aspect of the online driver. So which statement best describes you and your business website? It's awesome and I have it updated regularly. It's okay, but I don't post new content consistently. And by the way, when you don't post new content, it hurts your search engine optimization and you won't come up as often in searches. Next, it's operational, but it needs to be updated. It's never been good and I need some help, or I don't have one at all. So where are you at? Give you a few more seconds to answer. Okay, good job. Let's take a look. Okay, so 44% say it's awesome and I update it regularly. Great job. You're doing all the right stuff. 22% it's okay, but I don't post new content. 11% say it's operational but needs help. 22% say it's never been good and I need help. So the important thing about this question is know where you're at and know what you need to do, right? If you need help, then you need help and let's ask for it and let's get on it. If it's operational but it needs to be updated, great. How are we going to update it? When is it going to get updated? Does this have something to do with your branding, and do you need to start with your brand identity and go from there? And if you're in the content category where you're just not posting new content consistently, then I'd encourage you to go to the Wyoming Women's Business Center YouTube channel and take a look at the webinar we did a couple months ago specifically on developing content for online. Because this can help you put together a calendar on how you can do content creation and all kinds of ideas on how to create that content. Okay, competing with Amazon. I'm sure the hot topic for the day. So, do I have a magic bullet and answer for competing with Amazon? No, I do not. However, I do have some things that you should take a hard look at and improve upon if there is an opportunity. And so here is what they are. Your number one competitive advantage to Amazon is your staff and your operational excellence. And so what I mean by that is if you leave your customer or your shopper alone to browse, this is not a strategy. So the goal is for the customer to consistently have the same buying process, whether they're in one section of your store or another, if they're at two different locations, or if they're with two different salespeople. They need to have the same exceptional experience. And the war against Amazon is only going to be won by those retailers who can execute on the sales floor day in and day out. So if you don't have a training manual for yourself and your employees, you need to get one. And you need to do daily training sessions with your staff, even if it's a 5 to 10 minute stand-up meeting where you're covering some kind of training element and what the theme or the focus should be for that day, that week, or that month. If your staff is not an expert on certain products, they either need to become experts or you need to start employing experts on site. Because again, this is your competitive advantage against online retailers. The reason a shopper is coming into your store is because you have a unique product that they can't get anywhere else, which going forward will be almost impossible to do, right? Like you can get almost anything online and you usually have more options online. So that competitive advantage is going away quickly. So that means the reason that they're coming to your site is because they want to be educated on the product. So you have to be sure that your staff can do this, or you need to hire an expert that can do it. This goes in line with paying people accordingly. So in order to have experts on site, in order to have talent in your store that's actually trainable, that can think on their feet, that can make somebody else's day and make them want to come back, you have to pay for that kind of talent. And so if you need to consider that part of your customer acquisition costs, if that helps you to do it, great. But make no mistake, you are leaving money on your sales floor if you settle for untrained employees, kiosks, and computers to do it rather than trained associates. Next, making customer loyalty a bigger focus. So it's always going to be easier to get a repeat customer sale than a new customer sale. So engaging your current customers in a variety of different platforms and being sure that you have a loyalty program is key. Next, using your online sites and your social media platforms to get customers to your physical store. So we touched on this briefly before. You want to make sure that your online and your social media platforms are in line with each other. Your brand awareness is right on. And then we need a campaign or multiple campaigns in order to drive customers to your physical location. And it needs to be consistent. And then lastly, a lot of my clients are frustrated by showrooming. And what showrooming means is someone comes into your store so that they can, touch and feel the product and check it out and ask some questions. And then they leave and they go buy it online because they can get it online for, $3 cheaper. I want you to look at showrooming as an opportunity and ask yourself, what else can you do to get the sale? Are there better questions that you can be asking in order to drive that customer to buy from you versus going back and seeing it online? Can you offer them an opportunity to shop online right there while they're in your store? Are you flexible enough to be able to offer price matching, right? What are the things that you can do in order to turn it into a sales opportunity? So just evaluate that. All right, and the last thing we're going to cover today is strategic partnerships. So under strategic partnerships, I want you to think about your local economic development agencies. Be sure you're taking advantage of your chamber membership if you're a member, or your local ED office resources, right? What events can you participate in? I always tell my clients, in order to get value out of these types of groups, you have to participate. You have to be active. So can you host an event at your location for them? Can you attend their different events? Is there an opportunity to do a pop-up shop or a kiosk? Go where your customers are. So this can simply be brand awareness, or it could be an actual opportunity to sell merchandise. Another idea is to connect and join forces with other small business owners. And you want to find other small businesses that could potentially complement you, and then develop a cross-promotional opportunity. It's got to be a win-win for both of you. Right? So can a yoga studio hold a class in your store? What's in it for both of you, right? Can you do a pop-up store in the corner of a local coffee shop? What would make that make sense for both of you, right? So think of win-win ideas and start pitching. Get out there to your local business owners and figure out how you can work together in order to drive business. Lots of you have downtown business associations that you're working with. Again, the more active, engaged, involved you are with those community groups, the more likely it is that they're going to help you drive business. And then lastly, community involvement to drive store traffic. So partner with local organizations or nonprofits to drive traffic to your store, right? Can you sell tickets for an upcoming event and be listed as a ticket sale location in all their advertising? Can you be a drop-off location for donations for something? Get creative. All right, so a summary for today's webinar. I've given you lots of ideas, and this has been really heavy on content. So let's just summarize what you've learned here into 5 basic steps, okay? Step 1 is to establish a monthly marketing budget. If you don't set a dollar amount you can spend on marketing activity each month, then it's really difficult to make decisions on what things you can actually implement. Step 2 is to establish or solidify your brand identity. So if you already have some creative elements like your logo design and a website, then you're going to want to evaluate them and determine if they need to be refreshed or updated. If you're missing a true brand identity, then this is your first order of business once you've established your budget. All right, step 3 is to evaluate and improve your outdoor signage, and then take a look inside your store. So even if this is as simple as a banner, a flag, a potted plant and flowers, a red mat, the key is make an improvement, make some kind of an investment to do something different, And then next, look inside your store for improvements. This can be anything from hosting a monthly event to training and assigning your employees projects so they're always productive and looking busy if they aren't working with a customer. Step 4 is to implement at least one online driver. So if you can't take on the project of developing an online store right now, I get it. Can you commit to posting on your Facebook page once a week? Just do one thing to drive business from your online platforms. And then step 5, develop at least one strategic partnership. Could this be with your local chamber of commerce or a neighboring store? Start scheduling some coffee meetings and start brainstorming on how you can drive traffic to each other and get those win-win relationships going. So we're going to do our last poll for today since we've established kind of these different steps. And what I want to know is, what step needs to be your focus? Is it step 1? Because you really don't truly have a budget defined? Are you already there and it's step 2 with your branding? Or are you already down at step 5, where probably just if you added one strategic partnership this year, that'd be great. So where are you at in the steps? Give you a few more seconds to respond. Okay, let's take a look. All right, so 38% need to establish a marketing budget. And I'm actually happy to see that that's the #1 response with the heaviest percentage, because this is where so many small business owners just miss the boat from the very beginning, right? You start your business and there's a sense, if I build it, they will come. And then you realize that you're having, to do some push marketing, but your margins may be so tight that you don't feel like you have money to market your business. And as a sales and marketing expert, I want to tell you, if you don't have money to market your business, then you have no business being in business, right? Like, we have to find the money to market your business because it's the #1 reason that you're going to be successful. And we can do it in a variety of different ways. If you need help crunching those numbers and figuring out where to find that money, we can help with that. So feel free to reach out to the Women's Business Center. Our services, our counseling, our coaching is complimentary for all businesses in the state of Wyoming. So if you're not getting the help that you need, call us, okay? We have about 25% that say they need to establish or solidify their brand identity. And then a few more, same 25%, implementing at least one online driver, and then developing a strategic partnership. So if you're up there on step 1 or 2, don't get overwhelmed by the rest of the steps. Just focus on one at a time and step your way through them so that a year from now, you're in a very different place than you are today. Okay, so we are at the Q&A session now, and while you guys are thinking about some questions that you can ask your questions over in the control panel on the right-hand side of your screen. There's a drop-down that says questions that you can type in. I just want to bring attention to our funding partners because they make this stuff possible for us to do pro bono for business owners here in the state. So the U.S. Small Business Administration, the Wyoming Business Council, the Wyoming Women's Foundation, and the AARP Foundation are key partnership agencies that allow us to do this kind of content at no cost. So we certainly appreciate that. All right, Waldo, I'll turn it back over to you. Do we have any questions?
We don't have any yet, but I do have one that I wanted to ask.
All right, I'll do my best.
You were talking about your staff within your business, helping them to become better salespeople, making sure they're not standing around and they're busy all the time, having them work with customers. Personally, when I walk into a store, I don't like to have a clerk hovering over me. I like to just browse at my own pace. My wife is even more so that way. So how do you instruct your staff to work with people like that? What are some suggestions you might have?
Yeah, and you know, sales training, of course, is a whole nother webinar, right? But there are balanced ways to provide sales and customer service without being overwhelming. One of the reasons that people have that reaction when they walk into a retail store is because they're afraid of being coerced into buying something that they don't feel that they need. And so we've been trained from a very young age to have a rote response when we walk into a retail location of what the answer should be when we're posed with the same basic question. And the same basic question that we typically get when we walk into a retail store is something to the effect of, can I help you find something today? Right? And our rote response, every person's rote response to that question is typically, no, I'm just looking, right? We all know what the rote response is supposed to be to that question. And so from a sales training perspective in a retail setting, I always encourage my reps to ask a different question, right? Ask a question that people don't have a rote response to, so that a very disarming engagement can start. And then from there, you might be able to ask a rote question. And you may get a different response because there's been some rapport that has been built. And so sit down with your staff and come up with ideas of different types of approaches and questions that you can ask to customers that won't elicit the same rote response that you typically are getting, that might give you an opportunity to explain a special that's going on in the store or feature a special product. You know, have you seen such and such, right? Rather than, can I help you find something? Or are you looking for anything special today, right? We already know what the response is going to be to that. So ask a different question. And then lastly, there's ways to engage with a customer and then back off and get busy doing something else, you know, so it doesn't feel intimidating. And then go back to them at a certain point in their shopping experience to make sure that they don't need assistance, or just to make a comment on something that they're looking at, right? So it doesn't always have to be, can I help you? Can I take that to the counter for you? Would you like to try that on? Because all of those questions feel very salesy. Instead, it can be, hey, I noticed that you were looking at that top over there, and a gal last Monday just bought that in a size medium. I think you're probably about that size. I don't know if you were questioning, you know, what size you should get. Mm-hmm. And then the person might come back and say something like, oh, no, you know, I actually wanted it in pink and it looks like you only have it in gold. Oh, I'm so glad you mentioned it because I can order it in pink, or whatever. Something can come from that. But instead of asking a direct sales question, make an observation in order to start a discussion. So that's something that we do in sales training, and that's something you can do with your sales staff.
Okay, looking at our list of participants, I noticed that at two of them at least I know they don't have brick and mortar from personal experience, but they have more of a mobile business. So say I have a food truck, what are some things I can do signage wise, or how do I promote myself where I don't have that building front that I can put a sign on or a flag out front of?
So a lot of these ideas that I mentioned can work regardless of whether you have a brick and mortar location at all. So if you don't have a brick and mortar location, then your brand identity and your online presence is going to be paramount and is going to be very, very important. If you have a mobile business like a food truck, you know, or, you know, trailers, or, you know, whatever, if you have something that drives down the road, then you need massive signage on that mobile truck or trailer, right? That's your best opportunity to advertise, is when you're at events or when you're driving down the street. That's a mobile billboard. So your signage needs to be excellent. So you have a carpet cleaning business and you have trucks, you know, the wrap on your truck or the signage that's on your truck, very important. And make sure that that branding is in alignment and that brand awareness is consistent across all of your online media platforms. So if they see the signage on the side of your truck, and they see the web address or they Google your name, when they pull up your website, oh, the website branding, it looks just like your truck. They know that they're in the right spot. They recognize that logo.
Okay.
Did that help?
That helped, yes. I don't have any other questions coming in, so I'm going.
Well, you know, it's because I'm so thorough.
That's absolutely right. So,
all right, here's our contact information, Waldo, and then I'll let you close it out. If anybody needs to contact Waldo or myself, our information is right there. And then we also have other business counselors on staff in Debbie and Jonathan. You can also go to our website and our contact information is there.
all right. So we do want to thank you all for joining us today. Our next webinar is scheduled for Thursday, April 18th from noon until 1. I'll be watching for an email. We're finalizing the topic for that webinar, and we'll be releasing that in advance. Again, please take the time to complete the survey as you leave the webinar today. We do read every survey. We do look at the responses that we get. And again, it helps us promote our program to our funders, and it also gives us ideas for future topics. If you have additional questions or need further assistance, feel free to contact us. Our business counseling is at no charge, and we would be happy to assist you. So with that, we ran a little bit long today, but we appreciate you joining us. Everyone have a good day, and we look forward to you joining us next month.